Hi, folks. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear.
You can. Thanks, Kieran, for letting me know. How are things, folks? And thanks for coming tonight. So what I'm going to do for you tonight is I'm going to give you a kind of a little taster of, I suppose, how we would approach the oral course. We have a one-day oral course next Saturday, I think, in online and in the institute itself. And then on Tuesday nights, we kind of go through the oral in this way. So I'm going to start tonight for you with the marking scheme. Okay, we're going to work through that, and I'm going to deal with one of the units and give you kind of like a few tips along the way. The notes that I'm going to be using tonight will be made available to you. They will be sent out to you. And if you have any questions, please use your mic, guys. Don't be a bit shy about contacting me if you have anything you want to ask me. Okay. So my name is Cian. I've been working in the institute for about 20 years. I've written a number of books, including a book for the oral exam for French. So I have a good bit of experience at this. And the one thing I would say to you is that the good news is that this is actually a very easy exam. It's not a difficult exam at all. I would say to you that time isn't on your side. You know what I mean? You have about 5 weeks ish to prepare for this. And I would say that you need to use every single one of those 5 weeks to ensure that you leverage the time that's left to your best advantage. But it's definitely doable. Okay, it's definitely doable. So let's have a look. There are, for the oral exam, I'm going to start sharing my screen with you now, guys. Okay, and you might just let me know if you can see it. I'll just double check that this is recording, and I'm recording it now. Okay, so you can see my screen. Okay, can you? No. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, my friends. Okay, so there are for the oral, really, in my view, around about kind of 7 different units that you absolutely must get right. However, everything that you do starts with moi-même, myself, because the moi-même aspect of the oral will actually direct the course that the entire exam is going to take. And what you tend to find in a lot of schools will say where you haven't done any real work on this, which I always find extraordinary in a living modern language, but in schools where French is not spoken, you know, routinely, and you haven't done many oral exams up to now, what you tend to get, I find, is an over kind of emphasis on what we might call abstract topics, you know, unemployment, things like this, homelessness, the war in Ukraine, etc. You're not really going to be asked any of those things unless you somehow lead the way into them. So it's up to you to direct the course that the oral takes, and that's entirely possible to do. It's entirely possible to direct the oral, and what you should be trying to do between now and the summer, or between now and the oral exam, is you should be trying as much as possible to lay traps for the corrector. Okay, so what you're trying to do is you're saying to yourself, okay, I want to direct the course of the oral in such a way that the corrector actually believes that he or she is asking questions coming up with them, but you've actually fooled them into asking what you're happy with talking about. Okay, and that starts and stops with moi-même, myself. So let's have a look at that kind of unit, moi-même. Before we do, let's have a quick look at the marking scheme. Pronunciation is 20% of the marks. If your pronunciation can be understood by a French speaker with no English, that's the rule, you'll get full marks for pronunciation. So in other words, what they're saying to you there is your pronunciation does not need to be perfect. And one of the things I will be doing on Saturday's oral class in the Institute, the one-day class, I'll be looking at the standardizing tape. So how the Leaving Cert is marked is they basically use one tape for the whole country. The chief examiners meet with the correctors and they play them a tape. And they go, now, could you listen to this and could you mark it according to this marking scheme? And then they explain what the mark should be. And the rule for pronunciation is if the pronunciation is understandable to somebody who doesn't have fluent English, well, then that's fine. And that means that the bar is pretty low. Because if I were to speak to you in English like this, well, tonight we are going to discuss the French oral exam and we are going to talk about the various things that you need to do well. Like, you understand everything I'm saying. My accent's atrocious, but you get what I'm saying. Okay, and it's definitely far from a native English speaker. So that's good news, right? There are, though, some things that are so bad when it comes to accent that they spill over into structures and vocabulary and you can't be understood. And I'll be showing you a few of those tonight. Okay. So vocabulary, do you have an adequate level of vocabulary to talk about the task that the question that's asked of you? 20%. So pronunciation is quite easy. Vocabulary, it's okay. Structures will be grammar. And they're difficult. It's difficult to squeeze a high mark out of that if your French is poor. But the good news is, if you're sitting here tonight and you're really worried, oh my God, I could fail this. This is designed to be very difficult to fail. And I mean, really difficult to fail. Okay, so that's really good news. Because it's a common level exam. Everybody in the exam is either honours or pass or ordinary level or higher level, but the corrector doesn't know your level. So when you walk in now, they can guess it quite quickly, but they don't know your level. So it's a common level exam. And the really, really good news is that they've designed the marking scheme to award you these communication marks. So in other words, if I said to you in English, this weekend, me go town, meet me friends, you understand exactly what I'm saying. My structures are appalling, my vocabulary is very poor, and my pronunciation is grand. Okay, so in that situation, I have conveyed the communicative intent to you using pretty poor English, but I would get full marks for communication. So it's designed to help you pass. Now, if anybody has any questions about anything I've said, stop me and ask me, and I'll be delighted to help you. So, je m'appelle Cian. So let's start now. It's you. It's the day of the oral. Now, if you're going to work off this unit that I'm going to make available to you, it is so important, my friends, that you do not learn from the sheet. I'm really speaking here now to the really, the well-intentioned, hard-working students, because it's always those students that cause, that basically take this approach. You're under pressure, you want to work hard, so you start learning from the sheet. You do that, and you will start to make serious pronunciation errors. It's not possible to do. But what you can do very easily is you can use Google Translate and you can set the translation engine French to French and then press the listen function on it. And it's very, very good. Now, technology is very helpful here. The other thing you can do, and like, in other words, cut and paste this, throw it in and listen back to it. That's the way you should learn it. Do not learn this from the sheet. You will make pronunciation errors. And I'm always minded at this time of the year to recall, we're going to sneeze. We've only just met and I'm already allergic to you as a class, but I'm always reminded of this time of year of a long time ago in the institute, one of the ladies in the office asked me would I help her out. I think it was her grandson actually, was preparing for the oral, and he was a very hard worker. He was looking to do a very high-end course, and he came to meet me the weekend before the oral to do a practice run. And this guy had done everything that you could ask of a student to do. He had Rolodexed his entire life and learnt it, okay? And practically every second word he spoke, I couldn't understand him because he had learnt it from a sheet. So don't fall into that trap. The second thing, just while we're talking about technology, that's very helpful, ChatGPT is incredibly helpful if you use it correctly. The prompt is very important. So what you want to say is imagine you are, okay? And then break it down and describe this using vous. It's very important you tell it what to use in French. Okay, you have to use vous in the oral. You'll be marked down if you don't. Does anybody have any questions about anything I've said so far now? Okay, so going back to this now. This handout is designed, now it's a massive handout. Okay, so what do we got? 124 pages. There's an awful lot of work, an awful lot of stuff in it. Okay, the handout is designed to basically create the impression that you spent a lot of time in France. It's also designed to create those pitfalls for the corrector that lead the corrector, that lead him or her into asking you the questions that you've prepared. Okay, so that's really important that you keep all of that in mind. This handout does not work if you kind of do a half-arsed attempt at learning it, because it's idiomatic French and you drop out an EN here or a DE there and it doesn't make any sense. So, je m'appelle Cian. J'ai 17 ans. Now, in French, you never pronounce a consonant unless it's followed by a vowel. So French pronunciation is all about what you don't pronounce. And a feature of poor French pronunciation is that you over-pronounce. J'ai 17 ans, mais j'en aurai 18 le 19 avril. But I will have, now look at this, I have 17 years, but I will have 18 of them. Now, if you mislearn this, what people tend to do is they tend to go ANS at the end of this, and that doesn't make any sense. The EN there is replacing on. So, je m'appelle Cian, j'ai 17 ans, mais j'en aurai 18 le 19 avril. Now, let's just pretend that that's you. If you say something like that, okay, they're going to ask you, given that this is in 2 weeks' time, around about the time of the oral, what are you doing for your birthday? And if you can't answer that, it looks awful. So what you should be doing is you should be preempting as many of the questions as possible. Now, how I would work on this is I would get my script ready. I'd learn it like a script, okay? And then what I would do is I'd think about the interventions. What are they going to ask me here? What are they going to ask me there? And I would be thinking about this constantly between now and the oral exam. And what I'd also be keeping in mind if I were in your position right now is that the oral is everything in terms of French for the next 5 weeks. It's everything in terms of lots of subjects for the next 5 weeks because it's a quarter of your French exam and your Irish exam and, you know, so on. So it's so important that you really ignore the written paper for the next 5 weeks and you concentrate exclusively on this. This is money in the bag, though, for the written paper as well in June, because every year for the past 10 years, or yeah, even going further back, they have asked something on the written paper that you should have gotten ready for the oral. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So this is worth doing for the written paper as well, and it's game changing. I keep quoting my own son who failed his mock paper last year and got a H1 in French, and it was basically the wake-up call. He wasn't doing anything and did very badly in the mock, and then his first priority was, we sat down and we said, well, you forget about everything else, it's the oral, the oral, the oral, and this changed everything for him. We're designed to learn languages, to speak them. Okay. On est cinq. Just by the way, if you want to say we in French, don't use nous, use on. It sounds much more French. On est cinq dans ma famille. There's 5 in my family. C'est-à-dire, that's to say, mon père, ma mère, ma sœur, mon frère, et bien entendu moi-même, and of course myself. Mon frère est l'aîné. My brother's the eldest. Et ma sœur, hard one to pronounce that, sœur, est la cadette. She's the youngest. Moi, je suis le Benjamin. Me, I'm the Benjamin. So I'm the Benjamin. So what the hell is that? So what that means is you are the youngest boy in the family, and the implication being that there is a younger sister. Okay? Je suis le Benjamin. I'm the Benjamin. Je suis la Benjamine. I'm the Benjamina. Je suis la Benjamine. Mon frère s'appelle Sean. My brother's name is Sean. Il a 20 ans. He's 20. Il a 20 ans. He's 20. On s'entend très bien. We're getting on really well. Et on est très proche. And we're really close. On est très complice. We're really close. On est très proche. On est très complice. Now, I'm pronouncing the T there because of the A. Il a 20 ans. Il s'intéresse. He's interested à tout ce que je fais, in everything I do. Il s'intéresse à tout ce que je fais. Now listen how I'm pronouncing it. À tout ce que je fais. I'm running it right through. Et souvent and often, il m'aide avec mes devoirs. Now listen to how that one's pronounced. Il m'aide avec mes devoirs. Devoir. The letter E in French is E. You put a D in front of it. Devoir. So if you're hearing it being pronounced like devoir or something like that, well, that's not good. Okay. En ce moment, at the moment, Sean est, and I'm pronouncing the T here because of the A. Anything on the screen in grey, I'm saying to you as a pronunciation thing. Anything in blue, I'm saying is like a little phrase that maybe is important to keep in mind. And anything in gold on the screen is a grammar point, or it's a grammatical thing that people have problems with. So, en ce moment, il est à la fac de médecine de corps. Médecine. Be very careful of words that look like English words. They're easy to make a mistake with. Et il travaille d'arrache-pied, and he's working flat out. Ma sœur, Rachel, a. Now, people, I think, are very good at recognizing that you say j'ai 17 ans. But what I find with weaker students is that they will revert back to EST for their sister or their brother. They'll use is 14 instead of has 14 years. Et je dois admettre qu'elle est assez difficile à vivre. And I have to admit that she's rather difficult to live with. Now, one of the things I do when I'm teaching the oral is that I use the oral to provide us with kind of revision points that I would have covered throughout the year in the course on a Saturday in the Institute or online on a Tuesday night in the Institute, okay? So one of the most important, and if you have a pen ready, you should be taking this down. So one of the most important, really, really kind of like fundamental rules of grammar for French is that every verb in French, and if you just want to take this down, every verb in French causes the verb after it to go into the infinitive. So every verb in French causes the verb after it to go into the infinitive using a, de, or nothing. So every verb in French causes the verb after to go into the infinitive using a, using de, or using nothing. Okay, so look at this here. Je commence à réviser. I'm beginning to revise. Je sais, I'm trying, d'arriver. I'm trying to get there. Okay, I'm trying to arrive. Okay, or j'essaie de étudier, or réviser. I'm trying to revise, to study. By the way, that's the verb to study in French. It's not étudier. You only use étudier if you're really talking about a specific topic, like medicine or French or whatever, you know what I mean? Like I'm actually studying French right now. Okay. So, je veux étudier la médecine. I want to study medicine. Now look at this here. So every verb will cause the verb after it to go into the infinitive in one of three ways, using a, using de, or using nothing. Okay. Now, the key thing that you should be asking yourself right now is, okay, how do you know if a verb takes a, de, or nothing? And the terrible answer to that question is you don't. There is no way of actually knowing. There is no way that any student can know if a verb takes a, de, or nothing. There's nothing you can do to learn that. You just have to actually say to yourself, well, every time I meet a new verb, I have to learn that it's commencer à. Now, if I did a show of hands, everybody in this grind tonight would know that commencer means to begin. But I know for a fact very few people with total certainty could tell me that it takes a. And without that a, it makes no sense. So you have to learn it each time. Essayer de. Okay, to try to. Okay. Vouloir takes nothing. Now, I can help you a little bit. These are the most common verbs that take nothing. So it's pouvoir, to be able to, devoir, to have to, savoir, to know how to, vouloir, to wish or to want to. So look at this one. So, il doit y avoir. That's the il y a phrase. There must be. There must be. Okay. Il doit y avoir. And then look at this one. Il va devoir y avoir une solution. There is going to have to be a solution. Il va devoir y avoir une solution. There's going to have to be a solution. Il va devoir y avoir une solution. A really, really nice little phrase. And then the last bit over here is, so these four here, pouvoir, to be able to, devoir, to have to, savoir, to know how, and vouloir, to wish or to want to, they all take nothing. But so does every verb connected to the senses. So any verb connected to one of the senses takes nothing. Je me vois étudier en Europe. I see myself studying in Europe. J'ai entendu quelqu'un courir. I heard somebody running. J'ai entendu quelqu'un courir. I heard somebody running. Elle est trop gâtée. She's too spoiled. Et très têtue. And really stubborn. Okay. Now, gâtée there is agreeing. It doesn't do anything to pronunciation, but it is agreeing because it's she. If it was he, il est trop gâté, he's too spoiled, there'd be no he. J'ai l'impression que, I feel that, mes parents, my parents, and then they, my parents, they, mes parents ne veulent pas la voir grandir. They don't want to see her grow up. Mon père est avocat. Now, the reason why that's in gold there is that with the profession, you don't use une or un. Okay, so mon père est avocat. My dad's a lawyer. Et ma mère travaille à temps partiel. And just watch the pronunciation of temps. Excuse me, guys, I'm going to sneeze again. Excuse me. So à temps partiel, part-time. Now use the mic, guys, if you need to interrupt me at any point. Okay, so and my mum is working part-time. Comme prof, as a teacher. En fait, in fact, the T is pronounced there now. En fait, in fact, it's a very handy one for the oral. That is a pronunciation exception. You would normally not pronounce the T. Okay? Because there's no vowel after it, and we don't pronounce the last letter unless it's followed by a vowel, but that's a pronunciation en fait. En fait, mon père ne travaille pas loin d'ici. In fact, my dad isn't working too far from here. Donc, so, j'ai de la chance. I'm lucky. Car, because, il m'accompagne, he joins me, is what that means. He accompanies me en voiture tous les matins. He takes me in the car, he brings me in the car every morning, tous les matins. Tous les matins. Now, one of the things about the oral there, you see the way I said here, always talk about the building as if you're actually in it, which you are, okay? Don't talk about the building, the uniform, anything like that as if it's an abstract, okay? I would also dispense with some of the insane stuff that some of you have learned in books and shite like that over the years. Like there's a couple of them, like where people go in, they go, hi, my name's Cian, I'm 52, an unusual situation to be taking the oral. I wear glasses, etc. Now, describing what you look like is a very odd approach to the oral, unless the corrector is wearing dark glasses and touching your face. Okay, so don't, do you know what I mean? Don't go down the route because it just sounds rote learned. The other one that really I think is so funny is people going in, hi, my name's Deborah, I'm a Gemini. Like, who actually talks like that? I have never in my entire life met somebody for the first time where they turn around to me and tell me their horoscope. Or their star sign. So it just sounds like you've just learned it straight from a book and it's not kind of normal. Try and make this as normal as possible. Do I have a question? What's the difference between en fait and au fait? Well, en fait means in fact. Au fait means kind of like to the point. Is that okay? Maybe au fait I might translate as well as indeed. Is that all right? Okay, stop me now and ask me if you have any questions, guys. I don't always see the chat questions. I will see them periodically. I'll check. But if there's something that we're looking at the time and you're wondering about it, stop me. Je m'entends. Now listen there. The S and the D are both silent. Je m'entends. Je m'entends. Relativement bien. Now that's an adverb. Relativement bien. I get on relatively well with my parents. Okay. Now, regular adverbs are formed by going to the feminine adjective. So you take an adjective. Look, here's one. Elle est heureuse. She's happy. That's the feminine adjective. And you slap ment onto it and you get heureusement, happily. Okay, so ment is kind of like the equivalent of ly in English. It's always your first go-to stop if they ask you to find an adverb. And they did on one of the mock papers this year. You were asked to find an adverb, and a lot of people wrap themselves up in knots trying to find like irregular adverbs and all the rest of it. Look for that. Look for ment, and you're away in a hack. Il se rend vraiment tôt. That's also an adverb. He goes really early to his office. Il ramène souvent du boulot à la maison. He often brings work home. Mais à part ça, but apart from that, il est facile à vivre. Apart from that, he's easy to live with. On habite à Dundrum, en banlieue de Dublin. We're living in Dundrum, in the suburbs of Dublin. J'adore l'endroit, là où j'habite. I love where I'm living. J'adore l'endroit, là où j'habite. I love where I'm living. Il y a tellement de choses à faire. There are so many things to do. Bien qu'il n'y ait pas tellement de choses à faire, even though there aren't so many things to do. Pour les ados. Now, if you want to circle this now, I can't obviously deal with everything tonight, okay? So there's a couple of things here. We're living in Dundrum in the suburbs of Dublin. J'adore l'endroit où j'habite. You cannot say j'adore où j'habite. You have to say l'endroit, the place where I'm living. Or if you're speaking French, it's kind of là. Okay? Listen to how I pronounce il y a. So il y a, if you're speaking slowly or very like kind of like from a book. But il y a is what you'd say if you're really speaking French fluently. Il y a tellement de choses à faire. You drop the L. Bien qu'il n'y ait pas. Now, if you just want to circle that there, okay? And if you want to write in present subjunctive caused by bien que. Bien qu'il n'y ait tellement de choses à faire, even though there aren't too many things to do for the teenagers. En plus, no, that's a pronunciation exception. What's more? En plus. Ce n'est pas loin du centre-ville. It's not too far from town. Now look, nous habitons. So nous on its own. when it comes in front of a vowel, and H in French is a silent, when it's silent, it's not always silent, but it nearly always is not pronounced, and it's a vowel. Okay, so it's nous, and then it's as if the H isn't there. Habitons, nous habitons. And then look, un lotissement. So not every word ending in ment is an adverb. Okay. Obviously, if it has un before it, it's a noun. Some nouns end in ment as well. And when they do, they are always masculine in French. So, un lotissement, a housing estate. Et je connais tous mes voisins. And I know all my neighbors. Je connais tous mes voisins. I know all my neighbors. Tout. So, moi, je suis très sportif. Me, I'm super sporty. Okay? Moi, je suis très sportif. Me, I'm super sporty. Now, if you're a girl, sportive. Moi, je suis très sportive. Le sport, c'est ma passion. Sport is my passion. En hiver, in the winter, je pratique le hurling. In winter, I do hurling. So, verbs work with nouns in 3 different ways. Okay, so they work with verbs using a, de, or nothing, and they also work with nouns doing a, de, or nothing. Okay, so look, this is really difficult, guys, and I'm going to go through it quite quickly, but you know, you can stop me and ask me if you have any questions. So, a verb will take a plus a noun, de plus a noun, or nothing plus a noun. There's no way of knowing what preposition a verb takes. You can't know it, you have to look at it. And sometimes, just like in English, a verb will take more than one preposition, and that will change the meaning of the sentence. So in English, you could say, look, listen, I was chatting to Mary yesterday. Chatting to Mary, that makes total sense. You could say, listen, I was chatting about Mary. That's a totally different meaning. I've changed the preposition. You could say I was chatting Mary up. Now I've changed the position of the preposition and the preposition, and now I have a totally different meaning again. Okay. Now what's really weird about French, though, and this is me trying to explain something that I would normally spend about a half an hour on in about, you know, a minute or two. What's really weird about French is you have different words for it or him or her, depending on whether the verb takes a plus a noun, de plus a noun, or nothing plus a noun. So watch this. If the verb takes nothing plus a noun, the word for it or him or her is le là. So look, je vois le film. I see the film. Okay, so je vois le film. I see the film. Okay, and then I see it. Je le vois. Je le vois. I saw the film. Je l'ai vu. Je l'ai vu. I saw it. Je l'ai vu. Je vois l'école. I see the school. Je la vois. I see it. Je vois Pierre. I see Pierre. Je le vois. I see him. Okay, I see him. Je vois Marie. I see Marie. Je la vois. I see her. Okay, so the word for it or him is le là if the verb takes nothing. Okay, now, if the verb takes a plus a noun, the word for it is y. It's really confusing. The word for it or them, actually, it's also plural, is y. Okay, that's so confusing. Okay, so now this is where we're getting into oral territory. Look, I play football. Je joue au foot. Now the word au is a combination of a and le coming together. So if you want to say I play it, okay, you get j'y joue. J'y joue. Now I know for a fact there are even some teachers who don't get that one. Je n'y joue pas. I don't play it. On va aller à Paris. We're going to go to Paris. On va y aller. We're going to go there. On ne va pas y aller. We're not going to go there. Anybody have any questions now so far? Okay. If the verb takes a plus a noun, the word for him or her is lui. So the verb takes a plus a noun, the word for him or her is lui. Okay, we're all okay with that so far? You're very silent now, but I'm trusting you're okay. Okay, so look, je parle à Paul. So earlier on now we saw that I see the film, it takes nothing. Je le vois, I see it. Je vois Pierre, I see Pierre, it takes nothing. Je le vois, I see him. Now we're looking at, look, I speak to Paul. Okay. Je lui parle. I speak to him. Okay. Je parle à Marie. I speak to her. Je lui parle. I speak to her. So it's to him or to her. It's so confusing. It's so weird, but that's the way it is. Sometimes in English, a verb will take nothing. And sometimes in French, it will take a. Like the verb to telephone. In English, we go, I telephone Paul. I phone Paul every Tuesday. In French, je téléphone à Paul. I phone to Paul. And then I get je lui téléphone. I phone to him. Okay. Are we all okay with that so far? And then lastly, just to make things really shitty and difficult, if the verb takes de plus a noun, the verb, or the word for it or them, is en. So look, to play a sport, guys, in French, so to play a sport is jouer à. To play, we saw it there, look. Jouer à, all right? To play an instrument is jouer de. Jouer de. So je joue de la guitare. I play the guitar. And then I want to say I play it, j'en joue. Merci de ta lettre. Thanks for your letter. Je t'en remercie. I thank you for it. Je suis tombé amoureux de cette photo, la moto. So je suis tombé amoureux de cette moto. I've fallen in love with this motorbike. J'en suis tombé amoureux. I've fallen in love with it. Je me souviens de cette ville. I remember this town. Je m'en souviens. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to skip the next one just for time, and I would advise you to have a look over that. Okay, more for the written paper than the oral, but it is important when it comes to playing sports and playing instruments. J'en fais depuis 5 ans. I've been doing it, because it's faire deux. I've been doing it for 5 years. Okay. Et je suis membre d'une équipe pour laquelle je joue régulièrement. And I'm a member of a team for which I play regularly. Je joue au A plus le plus hockey. Et j'y joue depuis 3 ans. So I play hockey or football. Et j'y joue, and I've been playing it for 3 years. Je joue de la guitare. I play the guitar. Et j'en joue depuis toute ma vie, and I've been playing it all my life. J'aime aussi faire des jeux sur mon ordinateur. I also like playing computer games. Je surfe également sur Internet. I also surf the Internet. J'aime consulter des sites Internet intéressants. I love looking at interesting Internet sites. Je chatte avec mes amis. I chat with my mates. Now, being able to talk about online stuff is obviously pretty important. Depuis peu, recently, j'ai X. I have X. Instagram. They often just say Insta. TikTok. Toxic. Hey, j'envoie des snaps. And I send snaps. Des textos, texts à mes amis. I'm just giving you some vocabulary there. Je vais sur TikTok plusieurs fois par jour. I go on to TikTok several times a day. Une fois par semaine, once a week. And then, I don't know why that's there, but une mise à jour means an update. Le week-end, je dois sortir avec mes amis. At the weekends, I love going out with my mates. Avant cette année du bac, before the Leaving Cert year, on allait en ville. We used to go to town pour danser, to dance. Kind of sounds like you're dancing down Grafton Street there, but anyway. Et nous amuser en boîte and have a laugh in a nightclub. Souvent, okay, often, le dimanche. Now, if you put le in front of any time frame, like a day, the weekend, or whatever, it means on Sundays, at the weekends. That's how you say it. Le weekend means at the weekends. Le dimanche on Sundays. On va au cinéma. We go to the cinema à Dundrum, in Dundrum. Souvent, le dimanche, often on Sundays, on allait. We used to go au cinéma. Now, if you talk about the cinema, if you talk about a favorite TV program, now, obviously I can't do everything tonight on this one unit myself, okay? But like, these are all things you should get ready. And you can, if you're clever and you're trying to leverage time, pick a movie now. Okay. If you're even cleverer, you could say, well, I haven't been to the cinema in years, but I love watching movies. And then you can use ChatGPT to describe in French a very popular movie. Okay. Pick one that people would know and that you really have seen, and then put the effort into really being able to talk about it. And then leveraging AI to help you is a really good idea for that. But the prompts are very important with AI. Imagine you are a 17-year-old French speaker. In formal French, right, because it has to be formal, describe. Formal colloquial French is the prompt I'd use. Mais cela fait au moins 3 mois. Well, it's been at least 3 months. Qu'on n'a pas fait. That we have not done that. En fait, there it is again. Le dernier film qu'on a vu. The last film that we've seen, c'était. On a les mêmes goûts. We've got the same tastes. Just double check now, see if anybody's asking questions. What are my advices for the document? Do I recommend preparing one? Yeah, definitely. I really do. I feel, if I'm to be honest, that a lot of teachers advise against doing a document. Okay. And I think in some respects they advise against it because they don't want maybe the hassle of correcting it. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know that. No, like my own son did a document, so that will tell you what I feel about it. Okay. In my French class last year, every single person bar one got a H1. And every single person in that class, the person who didn't get a H1 got a H2. The average points were 98. And every single person in that class did a document, okay, including 1 or 2 native speakers, or, you know, kind of semi-native speakers with a French mum or a French dad or whatever. And they all did the document because it's just a no-brainer. Like, who in their right mind would not choose a question that you can prepare ahead of time? It is bananas. Like, imagine I'd said to you in English, would you like Kavanagh to come up, or would you like, you know what I mean, whoever you're studying at the moment, Sylvia Plath, to come up? You can choose that. Okay, so pick something that allows you to expand. You start with the photo and you describe every single aspect of the photo. Again, AI can really help you here, okay, if you use the right prompts. Describe every single aspect of it. And then what you do is, like what my son, just to give you an example, what my son chose was a picture of us in Corsica with family, friends of mine. And what we dug out was the picture, and we blew it up and printed it off, but the picture with the most people in it. So a picture of a table in Corsica, we're all sitting out, okay? And I think there was about 17 people in the thing. And that allowed him to talk about each one. Well, that's my uncle and he's a lawyer, and that's my, you know, that's my brother's girlfriend or whatever it is. Okay. And you go on and on and on as much as you can about each person. And then you obviously talk about where were we? Well, we were having a pizza. What's the food like in Corsica, etc. And you expand and expand. Now, Corsica is a good one because it's an unusual one, you know what I mean? And he knew it really well. And it allows you to bring in, I mean, obviously more, but you're trying to do is layer it up, you know, similarities and differences between Ireland and whatever you picked. It doesn't have to be a place, by the way, but the jackpot, I would say, is something like charity work abroad or whatever, because there's so much you can talk about there, you know, and you pick the right document and you could be like 6 minutes on it. So when preparing, would I recommend going with the subject you have an interest in? Yeah, no, definitely do a subject you're interested in, Kieran. Okay, definitely. But you have to be careful. 2 things. One, you don't want to, say you're really into Man United. You don't want to do that. Like, if you pick a picture of the Man United team, for God love you, but if you pick it and you face someone who has no interest in soccer and there's no common ground there, it's very, very difficult for the corrector to elevate it and find questions. You want to pick questions that leverage the reality of who you're dealing with. In general, you're dealing with people who like France, obviously. You're dealing with people who like travel. You're dealing with people who are interested in other cultures. You're dealing with people who have traveled a lot and who are elected to study, you know what I mean, abroad. So I would be picking something there, Kieran, that you're genuinely interested in. What your teacher suggests, just sort of interest. If you can think about it, throw it into the chat. Any more questions about the document?
How
No.
much time would they normally spend on the document?
Now hold on a second. First off, that sounds like a Cork accent, is it?
Yes.
Where are you? Where are you talking from?
From, would you know Mill Street in Cork?
I do, absolutely.
I'm just
Wasn't the
outside
Eurovision?
there.
Wasn't the Eurovision in Main Street?
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. Okay. Fantastic. So anyway, I think I speak on behalf of every single person in this grind tonight when I say that we are all stunned to learn that Mill Street has broadband, but I think it's a welcome thing. Yes.
Yes.
So, the fact is, like, there's no way that I can say how long you would be asked. Was that your question again?
Yes. How long would the conversation on the document normally be?
Maeve, I see you talking now. Yeah. Hi, Maeve.
Hi.
Yeah, there's no way to say. It could be, Maeve, you could be like the oral is 12 minutes, okay? So Maeve, you could be asked, you know what, do you know what we'll do here? Seeing is weird. Just give me 2 seconds, guys. I'm just going to stop sharing for 2 seconds, just to give you an idea. Okay, now I'm going to play for you, right? This is actually the standardizing tape from years ago, okay? I'm stop sharing the screen just at the moment, okay? I just want you to listen to it, okay? I've jumped to the point where she's asked about her document, just so that you'd see what it's like, okay? The standardizing tape is what's used to correct everybody, which is really good news, okay? Because it means you're not being, like, if you're in a class with a load of geniuses who've, like, spent their entire lives in France, you know what I mean? You're not being marked against your friends, you've been marked against this tape or the version of it this year. Kieran is saying that you were asked to deal with homelessness, a picture of a homeless man, modern day relevance, recommended using it over a picture I had with the holiday in Spain. I would definitely go with the holiday in Spain, Kieran. And that just sounds so forced, and it's also, and I hope, like, because this is actually in the chief examiner's report, are other people being suggested in the class to do the same one, Kieran? You might just think about that question and come back to me and I'll come back to you then. So listen to this now here, okay? So she's about to ask her about her document. By the way, just so that we're clear, the corrector here, the accent is really poor, but I can understand it. All right. So the corrector's accent is not like a native French speaker by any standards. Okay.
Je suis allée en Espagne avec mon famille. Cette photo, c'est une photo prise pendant mon séjour en Espagne. C'était moi qui avais fait cette photo.
So you're listening to a H1 student here, okay, guys? Her accent is really poor, but I can understand her. She's incredibly well prepared, and she's picked a picture of her holiday in Spain.
Ça, c'est ma mère. Et ça, c'est mon père. Italien. Et ça, c'est mon oncle. Et ça, c'est ma tante. Et s'ils sont cuisine, ils sont plus jeunes que moi. Nous avons passé 2 semaines en Espagne. Et je suis restée dans un petit hôtel confortable à la plage. Et c'était dans quelle ville? Tonellinas. Oui, la plage, c'était tranquille, petit. Il faisait beau tous les ponts. Il faisait.
Now, if you listen to her accent, it's very poor. Like she says, il faisait beau. It's il faisait beau. Now, a French person would understand you, but it sounds a bit odd, very odd. Like you'd have to strain. I can understand it though, but if you notice, like it wasn't enough to bring her grade down below a H1. She's talking now. We're on now. This is the first minute I've been playing it for.
Il faisait très chaud c'était formidable. Oui. Il faut sortir un peu le soir. Pardon? Il faut sortir le soir dans les restaurants. Oui, soir, je suis.
And by the way, if you don't understand the question or don't really hear it properly, that's absolutely fine. Okay, that's absolutely fine. Okay. Always, if you make a mistake, correct yourself, and always ask if you're not sure if you didn't hear it. That could happen to me. I could just misinterpret and go, sorry, what do you mean by that? That's grand. It's a conversation. You're not a machine.
Mes parents, les Espagnols, j'ai énormément de façons de jouer, des choses comme ça. Et ils mangent très tard le soir aussi. Oui. Et il y a beaucoup de façons pour être touristes. Chacun a son goût. C'est super. Avez-vous rencontré des gens espagnols?
We're now on minute 2. Okay.
Les Espagnols sont vraiment amis comme les jeunes. Le tourisme est vraiment comme les Espagnols. Bon, bien sûr, et de bon.
Now she's lifted it now, right? Now, this was obviously around about the time of the terrorist attack in Madrid. Okay. The girl obviously would have known this, you know what I mean? I can't remember what year that was. It was 2004 or something like that. So it was a long time ago. It was 20 years ago, this. But like the corrector is lifting it into a more relevant thing. Obviously, if you choose somewhere and there's been a major world news event has happened in that country within the last number of weeks or months, they're going to ask about it. Okay.
Penser le tourisme. Oui, j'étais vraiment triste.
You see, now she had that ready. I was very sad when I saw it. Now, so she brought it back. So just to be clear, that she spent on that 3.5 minutes was what she was asked. But to put that in context, that was 3.5 minutes of the oral exam that she had prepared and that she was on very comfortable ground. 3.5 minutes is a quarter of the oral exam. So let's think about that she was camped on. Now, Cian, I'm going back to you there. You were recommended to do something with an issue or a modern problem, a homeless one. Now, I would actually say, Cian, if you came in with your holiday in Spain, but the thing is, do it well. Like she did it well. And you could even do a much better job than her, I think, okay? I don't know what your French is like, but if you did, I know myself, if I faced 20 people dealing with modern issues like problems over and over again, I think I would be at the end of my tether if I was talking to 20 people about refugee crisis, homelessness. I'd find that so boring, also so depressing. I think I'd love to talk about sangria and sun if I were you. Okay, so I would be doing something you want to talk about, but you want to find something, Cian, that you do have a lot to talk about. So I don't mind putting you off, and you want to find something that it's that you can expand out from, you know what I mean, potentially, and that you do the job properly. I also think picking things like homelessness, it allows the corrector to throw curveballs your way much, much easier. Because I might have a completely different view on the refugee crisis than you. And it might be more difficult to see it coming. Whatever document you guys pick, I would strongly encourage you to look at getting everybody you know to say, what would you ask me about that photo? Start with the photo, okay? I don't know your level of ability, and again, if this is something that you're really interested in terms of French singers and their views on social media, again, that wouldn't really do it for me now. I'll be honest with you. If there was a French, I mean, if Taylor Swift was put in front of me, I'd probably know a bit more about her than your average French singer, maybe, but it wouldn't really interest me, and it's quite niche, I think. Again, guys, surely you can find things from your own lives that are genuinely interesting and different. If the teacher would recommend not to do the document, is it too late? No, I don't think it is, but you'd want to pick one that you're really happy with and that you know that you're willing to put the effort into. Again, a lot of these questions, guys, the variables are too broad for me to answer because I don't know your level of French to answer that one as well as I can. Do you know what I mean? What type of questions would you ask about a document on TY work experience abroad? I'd have to see the document. But, you know, what was it like? Where did you go? I'd start with the photo. Who's there? Who's in the photo? What did you learn from it? Where did you go? Did you speak, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That would be a good one. TY work experience would probably be a great one. Okay. Anybody else? Any questions? No?
I had a question, please.
Yeah, go for it.
So, first of all, I was wondering if I heard that we get marked down if we don't understand the question, like if they notice that we don't understand the question, or if we ask them to repeat that.
No, there's nothing wrong with asking to repeat a question. And you can make mistakes and still get, you know, a very high level. Okay. And you can misunderstand a question. I mean, has that ever happened to you in English where somebody asks you something and you misunderstand it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, and are you not fluent in English? You are. And would you get 100%? Yeah. Do you get what I mean? So no.
Okay.
And remember that they are very much confined. You do all get that they're confined to certain areas because of the pandemic. So they're not going to be asking you anything too abstract or difficult or weird. So if you don't understand the question, I'd be more inclined to ask them to repeat it. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. That's what I would do well, you know, not in the bit you're getting now, but like I would give students ways of saying, I'm sorry, I just didn't catch what you say. Now, a normal human response, certainly in this situation, if you don't get what someone's saying, a normal human response is to ask it in a different way, in a simpler way.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that all right? Yeah.
Sorry, I was also wondering, should I be worried about talking too much on one topic? Like, for example, for the document, you said to also talk about the people in the document. So if I was starting to talk about my friend or something, and I would go into that in too much detail.
No, I wouldn't be a bit worried about that. Like you have to understand, like it's very difficult for the corrector to sit there and talk to 30 people in one day about very similar questions and topics. So I love things that are more centered on you. Does that make sense?
Okay.
I love because it gives me a break, but also it's just nice to hear about other people's lives. You know what I mean? Human beings are fascinated by other human beings anyway. You know.
Okay. So if I was getting distracted, they wouldn't try to stop me or anything.
They'll intervene like she did. She let her talk, if you notice. She asked her questions. And even that question there, she asked her, I don't know if you heard it, at the end she said about tourism, do you think tourism has been affected in Spain because of the terrorist attack? And she said, her answer was, oh, it was terrible, wasn't it? This is what she said. I was so sad when I saw the images on TV, the poor Spanish. Now, she didn't really answer the question, but it's grand in a conversation, isn't it?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else now on the document, etc., before we move on? No. Okay, my friends. Right. So.
How many photos should you have?
Well, it depends. Like, you shouldn't have any writing on the photos, they say. I mean, they're quite relaxed, but to be honest with you, shouldn't bring anything physical in. So I wouldn't bring in a gun, like, or a knife or anything like that. It could be kind of threatening, or your pet horse. That would be an interesting one. I always think bingo. Bring bingo into the exam. I mean, you can bring in a montage of photos if you want, or 2 or 3 photos, but you're probably better off taking the photos, photocopying them, and blowing it up onto an A4 size. Do you know what I'm getting at? But color photocopy them, like do it quality so that they can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, is that all right? Okay. All right, yeah, you can have multiple photos. They don't say anything like that about not doing that. Okay, but you can't have anything with writing on it. Okay. Okay, so on a les mêmes goûts. We've got the same tastes et les mêmes centres d'intérêt and the same centers of interest. That's pastimes. A French person would use that a lot, and that can actually throw you a little bit. Par exemple, on aime tous les deux. For example, we both like les mêmes musiques, the same music. Justin Bieber, Taylor Swift, la musique moderne. En ce qui concerne l'école, as far as school is concerned, parfois ma mère est stricte. My mom sometimes is strict. Je dirais que, I would say que mes parents sont plutôt stricts. I would say that my parents now, plutôt means kinda, especially when you're speaking. So I would say my parents are kind of strict. Quand il s'agit, when it's about mes études, my studies. Mais c'est normal, je crois. Oh, shut up, Siri. Mais c'est normal, je crois. But that's normal, I think. On habite à Mont-Marion, en banlieue de Dublin. So we're living in Mount Marion, in the suburbs. On y habite depuis toute ma vie. So we've been living there all my life. On y habite depuis toute ma vie. Now, depuis, okay, if you want to note it, it changes the present tense into a past tense translation. It doesn't do anything to it. It still stays in the present tense, but when you use it, it means since. So look, if I took away depuis there, okay? So if I took depuis and it's gone now, okay? So on y habite, we're living. So that means we are living, okay? I put in the depuis and now it translates as we have been living, okay? And don't forget now, on means we, okay? On habite depuis toute ma vie. J'adore l'endroit où j'habite. I love where I'm living. Il y a tellement de choses à faire. There's loads of things to do. En plus, ce n'est pas loin du centre-ville. Nous habitons. Now, an awful lot of this stuff, you could learn this and reformulate it for a document. You know, you could say like, l'appart, là-bas, j'adore l'appart, c'est pas loin du centre-ville, you know what I mean? On loue dans le même lotissement tous les jours, tous les ans, whatever. Je connais tous mes voisins. You can use a load of that stuff again, okay? J'aime mon quartier, I love my area, or le quartier, the area. J'ai pas mal d'amis qui habitent dans le coin. I have loads of people living in, now le coin means the corner, but it means the area. En plus, what's more, j'habite une maison assez spacieuse. What's more, I'm living in a rather spacious house, avec un jardin privé, with a private garden. C'est très agréable l'été. It is really lovely in the summer. Je ne suis pas trop sportive. I'm not too sporty. Sportif, sporty. Mais je fais quand même du jogging. But I do jogging all the same. Et je vais au gymnase and I go to the gym. Je vais à la salle de sport. I go to the sports hall. De temps en temps, from time to time. De temps en temps. De temps en temps. You listen to it now? Par contre, on the other hand, je ne suis membre d'aucun club en particulier. On the other hand, I'm not a member of any real club. Okay, now, de is a thing that causes a lot of loss of marks. I don't know, I could not count how many times I've said this to classes and I'm still correcting it, like in the mocks and things like that. So you get de, de. In other words, it will replace les, un, une, du, des after an expression of quantity. J'ai beaucoup d'amis. I have loads of friends. So it's D apostrophe before a vowel. After a negative, I presume I'm only just meeting you guys, but I'm guessing this is the case. Je n'ai pas d'amis. I don't have any friends. I don't have any friends. Je n'ai pas d'amis. After a negative. Or, unusually, if the adjective comes before the noun. On est de bons amis. We're really good friends. On est de bons amis. DE. So le weekend, at the weekends. So it's le, at the weekends. That's how you say that. You do not say au weekend or anything like that. I hear that a lot, okay? J'adore sortir avec mes amis. I love going out with my friend. Now, there's what we looked at the beginning of this class tonight. We looked at the infinitive of the verb, the verb will knock the next verb into the infinitive. My only choice is, does it take a, with an accent, obviously, or does it take de, or does it take nothing? And in the case of adorer, most of the verbs of liking take nothing. It takes nothing. I love going out with my friends. Nous allons en ville pour faire les magasins. We go to town to do the shops et prendre quelque chose à manger and have something to eat. Souvent, often, avant cette période d'examen, before the exam period, ces examens oraux. Now, a good idea is to talk about the oral exams as if you're in the oral exams, which you are, okay? Before this period of oral exams or these oral exams, okay, bien sûr, talk about the Irish one is tomorrow or next day or whatever. I can't wait to be finished, that kind of stuff, okay? So le dimanche, on Sundays, on allait, we used to go, the imperfect there, and I'm pronouncing the T. We used to go to the cinema in Dundrum. Is that okay? So now we finished that unit there like lightning speed, ran through it. I will send you that unit free gratis and for nothing, courtesy of the Institute of Education. And listen to me, folks, I don't know what else to say to you, except if you have any questions, do you know what I mean? I'll give you a couple of minutes now. If anybody wants to ask a few questions, fire away, my friends. Silence? No? At what point does the document come up in the oral? Anytime, really. It's unusual that ask it straight off. There are it's normally after a while. When they come in, they'll kind of say to you, like, do you have a document? Okay. And then they go, okay, we'll talk about that later. Right. And then they'll bring it up then when they feel like, I suppose they feel themselves, oh, this would be a good point to bring it up. Okay. Usually what I would do when I'm examining is I'd always kind of like judge the person in front of me first, see where their French is at, and, you know, what'll I do with the document then? Is that okay? Any other questions? Throw your hand up now if you're typing a question, because I don't want to end the session and you're in the middle of asking a question. So nothing else? Now, the one thing I would say to you guys, you're at the very tippy end of what is possible to achieve in the time that's left. Okay. You really want to start yesterday. Okay. And you really want to be giving this a number of hours a week, because if you don't, like there's nothing worse than like starting this a week before the oral and you start making progress and you're kind of like, it's just, you just don't have the time to do it. Okay. Do the examiners have a certain amount of topics to get through during the oral? Jack, they do. Now you'll have to go on. I should really dig that up. Let's see if I can find it there. Just stop sharing for 2 seconds. Just bear with me now, guys. And if anybody wants to use their mic just while I'm typing this. Senior cycle. It's up online if you put up adjustments. Okay. And of course, the oral exam. They're so annoying. They just have up here online, but there's 3 different areas, guys, that they can only ask you. Okay. The document is optional. Yeah, you'll have to go and have a look for the adjustments for the oral, guys. They haven't put it up online. I just don't have enough time to ask it here, but they're basically like, there's 2 things about it, right? The adjustments, they look very generous, like that. So it's yourself, your area, school life, do you know what I mean? The future, it's something like that. Okay, it's very broad. But the problem is, like, it's like, do you get like, it's not that helpful, because in terms of narrowing it down, because like, yourself, I could talk to you about a million different things about yourself, or the future could go off in a million different tangents. That's why it's so important for you to control it through your preparation. So some of the questions, do they ask questions based on current affairs? No, no, I'm just assuming it's Mark Doyle. Okay, Mr. Doyle. I've been doing this for a long time, and I debrief my students in the institute, and sometimes I could have classes in the institute, you know what I mean, with 30 or 40 people in them on a Saturday. And we would talk about the oral, and the south side do it first and the north side do the French usually second. In the old days, that's the way it was. It's different now with the Easter holidays. And when the Southsiders would come in after having done all their orals, I have never seen a situation where people were randomly asked what we would call abstract topics, okay, current affairs, etc. They're not allowed this year anyway, but I've never seen it happen unless you bring it up. And that was in the old days before they narrowed it down. You usually find in schools where the teachers haven't really made the oral part of, I started by saying that, the preparation for the exam, that they tend to overemphasize the importance of those things. I think out of nerves or something, I don't know. How many hours should you dedicate? It's a very impossible question for me to ask, because, oh, top grade, you see, where are you starting? So we'll assume now that you're at a very high level already. I would be putting a minimum of 2 to 3 hours into the orals. Now I'd buy it back then later on, but the oral would be something that I would really target. Part of that preparation, Miss or Mr. Vaughan, would be practice runs. You need people to help you do that. You know what I mean? Is that okay? Can you choose a picture of a ride from an amusement park abroad of a school trip? Yeah, why not? But you want to bring it in, like, what were you doing there, who was doing it, etc. There's nothing wrong with that. If the document is on a certain topic, will they ask you about the topic at any other time? Well, I don't know, Kim. It's very hard for me to say that. I doubt, like, oh, you mean like, could you be asked first? Well, if that's the case, you say, well, that actually, now that you mention it, that's in my document, and they'll go to that then. You're talking about your holidays in the US. Do you have to talk about politics? No, but you can see how it could come up. I can't answer your question because I don't know your level of French, but I know if I was preparing people who were going for a H1 and you were on holidays in the US, I think I'd be tempted to prepare it, like, you know, but I would see that as a positive. Okay, I wouldn't be ducking any questions if you have the time to get them ready. You should, above all, guys, like a badly prepared oral looks terrible. A badly prepared document, rather, looks terrible. Is that okay? Any other questions? Okay, so that gives you a flavor of what it's like. We do these classes on a Tuesday. I do this class on a Tuesday and I do the class then on a Saturday morning. I have 2 classes on a Saturday morning, 1 English class, and on a Tuesday I have an English class and a French class. I think the French class is at 7 and the English class is at 5:30. Very exam focused, very driven towards helping you get the highest possible grade in the exam. Is that okay? Guys, take it easy, my friends. It was really lovely kind of half meeting you. And if you are coming in, if you're actually going to see you on site on Saturday, either in the regular Saturday class or the 2 to 6 class this Saturday, come up and say hello to me. Tell me that you were at this and we'll have a little chat in, okay? Take it easy, my friends. Bye. I'll stay on just for a couple of minutes if anybody has any questions. You're so welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're so welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. No questions? Okay, take it easy, guys. Bye. Best of luck.